Did Arab and Israeli officials convince you to not strike Iran?
Nobody convinced me. I convinced myself. You had yesterday scheduled over 800 hangings. They didn't hang anyone. They canceled the hangings. That had a big impact.
President Trump holding off on strikes against Iran after the regime canceled its scheduled executions. But the threat of U.S. action appears to still be on the table as U.S. military sources tell Fox that American military assets, including the aircraft carrier strike group Abraham Lincoln, is heading to the Middle East. Joining us now to react, the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy Senior Iran Program Director, Behnam Ben Talebou. Ben, how are you doing this morning?
Great to see you, Lucas. Good morning.
What can President Trump do to help the protesters in Iran?
Well, there's a lot he can do. He can continue to support the Iranian people from the bully pulpit as he has. He can continue to bring more military assets into the region to credibly threaten this regime, to make sure that the regime, A, listens to the protesters' demands, B, actually backs down from continuing to throttle and shut down the internet, and C, also begin to actually release many of those that the regime has actually arrested. Now, that being said, it doesn't look like this regime, which is the world's foremost state sponsor of terrorism and has repressed its own people at home and aggressed against America and America's partners abroad, doesn't look like they're going to be doing that. So realistically, President Trump is going to have cyber options, kinetic options, and economic options on the table. And we're all guessing right now, adversaries and allies alike, as to what President Trump's next move is going to be.
Should President Trump order strikes, what should the targets be? Is it the Basij? Is it other IRGC targets? Would strikes help topple the regime?
Well, it depends a great deal on what the larger U.S. goal is, because you wouldn't want strikes to happen at random and not have a concurrent U.S. strategy towards Iran. A few days ago, when President Trump was asked what his overall end game was, he said his end game is to win. That potentially means if President Trump does intervene kinetically, yes, he can level the playing field between the state and the street. He can go after the telecom and the electronic warfare hardware that the regime is using to throttle the internet. He can go after this regime's state propaganda service, the Islamic Republic of Iran broadcaster, which the U.S. has sanctioned in the past. The U.S. can also credibly threaten strikes against the regime's transnational terrorist apparatus, as well as make sure that the command and control that the regime is using to repress its own people is taken out. But then again, all of this stuff kinetically is going to have to feed into a larger, more holistic Iran policy. And, you know, with 3+ weeks of protests now, I'm not sure why, or we don't know yet, but it doesn't look like it, that both Israel and America have not engaged in things on the cyber side to shape Iranian decision-making and to get this regime to back down.
Should the Trump administration be helping arm these protesters?
I would say no, that might not necessarily be in the immediate best interest, though that being said, this is the most violent, repressed protest movement in the 47-year history of the Islamic Republic. You know, Iranians are not asking for arms, they're not asking for training, they're asking for international support. They're asking for step number 1, do no harm. Step number 2, to be able to actually help them level the playing field. And the way that can happen is if they have a credible way to protest peacefully and actually for those who are continuing to shoot at them, to not be able to have a free hand against both the Iranian people as well as against American assets in the region. So I don't think this is about needing to surge in arms. It should be about surging in Starlink, surging in ways to get the Iranians back online, and then being able to credibly threaten those who threaten U.S. national security interests, which again is the security apparatus, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and even the Supreme Leader himself.
Well, Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.